With summer vacation season finally here, many EV owners are going to be hitting the road, many for the first time. So in today's video, we're talking road tripping. I'm going to tell you guys about items I think you should keep in your car, applications you should definitely have downloaded on your phone, and all around just general road tripping best practices. So if you're going on a road trip and you want to find out more, then stay tuned. But first, a word from today's sponsor, Ioniq. Ioniq is a Maryland-based company selling high-quality, laser-measured floor mats at a great price. They're made from TPE, which is a mixture of rubber and plastic, so they offer traction and flexibility as well as strength when you need to remove them, so you're not going to dump their contents all over your floor. If you've ever owned floor mats from, say, WeatherTech, then you know those are made from a much harder material that tends to warp over time. Not with Ioniq. They also feature a simple and classy-looking pattern with a lip around the entire footwell so liquids won't spread around and get on your carpeting. I've been using their front and rear floor mats as well as trunk and rear seat liners for over a year now, and they've held up admirably. So these floor mats have gotten the Ioniq seal of approval, and when anybody asks which floor mats to buy, I always recommend Ioniq. Available on their website or Amazon, the link's in the description. Hey everybody, it's the Ioniq Guy. If this is your first time to my channel, welcome. My name is Corbin. I cover all things Hyundai, Kia, Genesis, EV related. So warm weather is finally here in the Northern Hemisphere, and a lot of people are starting to hit the roads. School is about to get out for many various states, so people are going on trips. I remember my first EV road trip. I was very nervous, I was worried, but after that first trip and you figure out what your car is actually capable of, all that worry just kind of goes by the wayside. And then after that first trip, you realize how awesome road tripping in an EV actually is, and then you just want to keep doing it. All right, so you're going on a road trip. These are the things I think you should keep in your car just in case. All the products you're going to see in this video are going to be linked down in the description below. So my Ioniq 5 came with this from the day I bought it, and it's a simple first aid kit. You never know what might happen on the road, and you might not be near a CVS or Walgreens or whatever, and it's good to just have some supplies with you. I actually used this on a road trip. A friend of ours got a cut, they needed a Band-Aid, and I said, let me pop open my front trunk, went in here, and I got him a Band-Aid. So if your car didn't come with these, I will leave a link in the description to one that I think would be a good option. Next up is going to be a Tesla to J1772 adapter. So a lot of hotels, restaurants across the United States have complimentary Tesla chargers. And obviously, because we don't have a Tesla port on our cars, we cannot utilize those. With something like this, the Tesla Tap Mini, you can go ahead and plug that Tesla cable into this adapter, and then this plugs into your charge port, and then boom, you could possibly get some free charging for yourself. Airbnbs are starting to install EV chargers, and they might only have a Tesla charger. So I think it's really useful to have this, even if you're not going to use it. It's just good peace of mind that if you get to a hotel, maybe the standard J1772 charger for our cars is broken, but the Tesla chargers are working. It's just nice to know that you can actually top up overnight, because a lot of people do that. If you're traveling and you go somewhere where there's not a lot of high-powered DC fast chargers, then you're going to be relying on hotels, possibly campgrounds if they have chargers. So you just want to know that you have peace of mind that you can use whatever charger is available. Now, this is the original Tesla Tap Mini that is still made in the United States. You're going to pay a little bit more for it, but this thing is built like a tank. I did a video review on that. I'll leave a link in the description if you want to see that. This is my number one choice for an adapter just because it's American made by a small family-run business, and it's just super high quality. They did partner with a manufacturer in China, and they are offering a cheaper version if that's more in your budget. There's other Tesla adapters available on Amazon. I'm not going to recommend any of them. This is my number one choice. And you know you're going to get good customer service when the owner puts his cell phone number on the adapter itself. So if you have an issue, you have a direct line to the company. So this next item is something that I wish I didn't have to recommend, but unfortunately I do. And that is this, a 12-volt battery booster pack. So if you weren't aware, Hyundai, Kia, and Genesis EVs have issues with the 12-volt battery system. It can be attributed to several things. At this point, it doesn't really matter. The issue is there. So I really recommend that you keep one of these in your car. This is a cheap one off of Amazon. It had good reviews at the time. I can't find this one for sale anymore, so I can't really recommend it to you. I'll leave links below to some other brands that have good reviews. It's just an issue that I wish we didn't have. I just really recommend you keep one of these in your car just in case for whatever reason the 12-volt battery dies. You can at least get the car jump started and hopefully driven to a service center or to an auto parts store where you can get a new battery if you need it. These come in handy. I know a lot of people on the Facebook group tell me that they didn't have one of these after the first issue. They got one of them because they didn't want to have to deal with calling for roadside assistance again. This could save you a lot of time and hassle. I actually used mine a few weeks ago when the 12-volt battery died in my Ioniq 5. It's just cheap insurance. Another thing you should keep in your car with you, depending on where you are actually going, is extra water. If you're going out into the desert, make sure you have plenty of water with you, especially this time of year, especially with the insane heat that we're seeing. If you get stranded for whatever reason and you don't have these tools to, say, get your car started, you could be out there without water for a very long time, and that could be really dangerous. You can experience heat stroke in a matter of hours in these kinds of temperatures, so make sure you bring plenty of water if you are going into a situation where you may need it. And then last but not least is your level 1 charger. It's not going to get you very much range very quickly. You can expect to add about 30 miles of range over an 8-hour period for an Ioniq 5. If you have the more efficient Ioniq 6, you could probably add like 45, 50 miles of range in an 8-hour period, so a little bit better, but still really slow. So that's going to be worst case scenario where maybe you're at a friend's house for the weekend, they don't have anything, but you're not going to be driving the car for a couple days. You can plug in and you could get possibly 150, 200 miles of range if you're there long enough. So those are all the goodies I think that you should keep in your car if you are road tripping this summer. So with that out of the way, let's talk about my favorite applications to use when road tripping. So I'm going to do a whole separate video on this, but my number one app is going to be the PlugShare app. If you don't know what the PlugShare app is, it is all around the best charging app, at least here in the United States, for finding chargers. It's community-based, so it has really up-to-date information, and some of the charging providers also will update their stations in there and tell you if they're working or not. I know EVgo is one of the biggest ones that does that. But one of the best features of PlugShare is check-ins. So if you go to a station, you can check in, say, hey, I'm here charging. You can take a photo, you can attach that. You can give an update on how the station is functioning. It will tell people what car you are driving. You can see exactly how people's experiences have been with your exact car. So it can be really useful. And the app has just great filtering. You can filter by power, by quality of the charging station. If you want a station that's at least an 8 versus a 5, you can filter by that. All around, you can find low power level 2, you can find DC fast chargers, you can sort by connector, be it Tesla, CCS, Chatamo, whatever you've got, you can find it. You can see upcoming stations, ones that are in the works. You can take those off if you don't want to see those. There's just so much stuff you can do within this app. PlugShare now also has its own built-in route planning, and it's kind of interesting in the fact that you say, I want to go from A to B, and then you hop along your route that's been planned, and you say, I want to stop at this charger, I want to stop at this charger, and it'll get you to your destination. And what's nice about that is you can do a little bit more research about each individual charger to make sure it's high quality, it's going to charge well, and all around just give you a better experience versus, say, the in-car navigation system that's not probably taking that into account. It's just saying, go here, charge, and we'll get you there. Sometimes having a little bit more control is preferred, at least for me. I know a lot of you probably feel the same way. So the PlugShare app is just a fantastic asset. Make sure you download it. It's available on iOS as well as Android. So my number 2 app that I would recommend to you guys to download for a road trip is going to be a better route planner. It's definitely a little bit different than PlugShare. PlugShare is going to be more on the side of showing you quality of chargers and charging stations. Here, in a better route planner, it is going to use its years and years of data to do predictive route planning with all sorts of things taken into account, like terrain, winds, all sorts of cool stuff. So just like with PlugShare, you will give it a start point and an end point, and it will plan your route. Now, there's all sorts of ways you can configure the app. You can say, I want to get there as fast as humanly possible with as few charging stops as possible. So plan for big charging stops from 10 to 80, 90, 100%. And then on the opposite end of the spectrum, you can say, I want to get there in the most efficient manner as possible. So that would be more charging stops while also charging for shorter amounts of time. And there's a lot of granular control in here. You can say what your average efficiency is, what driving speed you're going to be at, because that plays a huge part in how far you can drive these cars when driving at high rates of speed. The app also gives you the availability to plug in an OBD2 scanner into your car and connect it to a better route planner. And then the car and the app can talk to each other. The app can see what your state of charge is, and it can adjust the charging stops as necessary. You're going to have to pay a monthly subscription fee if you want to use that feature, and you are going to have a special OBD2 scanner, not the one that I personally use, which is the V-Peak. So you will have to also get one of those. So if you really just want to get a general sense of charging stops really quickly, a better route planner could be a great asset. It did get purchased by Rivian, I think last year. And Rivian said that they're going to keep it open to everybody. It's not just going to be dedicated to Rivian. So there could arise a point in the future where the app just no longer works because they don't want to support it anymore. Now, last but certainly not least, it's not really an app. It's the built-in navigation system that comes with your car. So Hyundai now has route planning with charging stops built into the onboard navigation system, which is something that couldn't be said when I bought my car back in January of 2022. This update did not come till almost a year later. I've done some fairly in-depth videos already on the route planning, so you can check that out up here if you are interested. But more or less, it's going to work like a better route planner. You're going to say, here's where I want to go, and then it will say, you have insufficient charge. Do you want to plan charging stops to get to your destination? And you say yes. So at that point, the car will plan your charging stops, and it is tied into your charging settings. So if you have your settings set to DC fast charge to 90%, all the charging stops will say charge to 90%. The biggest drawback with the system, I find, is that you can't say, I want to arrive to a DC fast charger with only 10%, with only 5% state of charge. At those low state of charge, you're going to get the most bang for your buck with DC fast charging because you're going to be able to charge really fast for a while, and then it will start to taper off a bit as you get up to 60, 70% state of charge. So I really wish they would give you control over that. Just give us an option in the system. Say, hey, I like to charge at 10% or 5%. I don't need to stop and charge at 30% because for some stations, it does only tell you to show up with 30%, 40% state of charge. It's just kind of ridiculous because you're not even utilizing half of the battery pack at that point. Now, the biggest benefit with using the built-in navigation system beyond charging your stops is that it will precondition the battery pack to be the ideal temperature when you arrive at that DC fast charger so that it can accept up to 240 kilowatts of charging power. Now, that's very important when it's cold out. I'm not 100% sure how that functions if the battery is too warm. It's not hot enough here yet for me to test that out. It's only 70 degrees, so I can't really try and see what it actually does if it's, say, 110 degrees out and then you plan a charging stop. Maybe one of you that's living out in the West can test that for me and let me know down in the comments section because you guys are having extreme heat right now in the 120 degree range out there. So again, if you want to know more about how that system works, check out my previous video on the topic. Beyond all these apps, you should also have on your phone at least the Electrify America app, EVgo, whatever EV charging providers that you use locally in your area. You can see station status. I know a few weeks ago, Electrify America made a statement saying that all their apps should really be showing current statuses of their chargers now, which is really good because for a long time, there were a lot of issues with the Electrify America app saying that stations were working when they actually weren't. So good to see that they're taking initiative. But sometimes at stations, the card readers don't work, but you can initiate a charge through the app. So make sure you have whatever application you need for the chargers that you're going to be stopping at. Let's talk about best practices when it comes to road tripping and DC fast charging. So the first thing is going to be speed kills your range. If you don't need to be doing 80, 85 miles per hour, depending on where you live, certain parts of the United States have super high speed limits versus out here where they're all 65 or 55. The air resistance that your car is going to experience increases with the square of your speed. So it gets exponentially worse the faster you go. So if you want to get as much range as possible out of one of these cars, go the speed limit. Go 5 miles per hour under the speed limit. If people have a problem with you, they can go around. I recently did some testing with my Ioniq 6 at various highway speeds, And the difference between 74 miles per hour and 65 miles per hour is huge. So if you really want to travel as far as humanly possible on a single tank, lower your speed 5 miles per hour, lower it 10 miles per hour. It'll make a big difference. And it will also cost you a lot less. A lot of people with Ioniq 5s are now out of that 2 years of free Electrify America charging. So you're now paying for charging on your own. So you might want to save a few bucks. And if you go slower, you're going to go further on a kilowatt hour and save some money. Now, my next tip, do not DC fast charge beyond 80% unless you 100% need it to get to your destination. Charging speeds over 80% drop like a rock, and it's going to be much more quick and efficient to just unplug at 80% and then hop to your next charger when you need to. Our cars are some of the fastest charging EVs available in the United States. Take advantage of it. Charging to 100% is not going to make your trip any faster. A lot of people seem to think that, but it is not the case. The quickest way to get somewhere is going to be charging from 10 to 80% and just doing that one stop after another. Now, depending on where you live in this massive country, you might not have an option but to charge to 90 or 100% to get to your destination. And I totally understand that. I went to upstate New York several years ago, and I had to charge to 100% to get to my destination to have enough charge to get back to that DC fast charger after our weekend getaway. But again, in 2024, there's never been a better time. There are so many DC fast chargers now from all sorts of providers. The Tesla Supercharger network should be opening up to us later this year, and that will allow us to charge at a lot of different locations that might unlock access to areas of the country that you haven't been able to get to before because there's just a DC fast charging desert. Unfortunately, at those superchargers, you're not going to get more than 100 kilowatts, which is not fast for one of these cars. You're talking a 45-minute charging session, most likely 10 to 80%. So it is going to be a worse experience, but it can get you to where you need to go. Beyond the fact that you're going to get to your destination quicker if you stop and charge only to 80%, you're also going to make throughput at that station much better and much quicker for everybody that's there. When you're spending an extra 20, 25 minutes to go from 80 to 100%, you are really going to slow down the throughput at that station. And it's just going to annoy everybody if there's a line of people waiting to charge. And that happens these days. There are stations that are in very busy areas that are critical stops to get to certain destinations, and you don't have any other choice. You got to stop and charge. So these stations are starting to get lines. I remember a few months ago when the eclipse happened across the United States, and up in Vermont, there was a charging station that they literally had people directing people where they were in line, handing out tickets like you're at the deli counter, letting them know what position in line they are for charging. This was at a Tesla Supercharger, so it wasn't CCS like our cars are. But nonetheless, that was the only station that all these people could use on their journeys back to New York City from Vermont or whatever. But anyway, it does happen and it can be frustrating, especially if there's no easy way to queue up cars. Now, if you do show up to a DC fast charger and you notice all the stations are full, and you can see other EVs maybe in the opposite spaces across from the chargers, be mindful of who was there before you. Don't try cutting in front of people. That is extremely rude. Making eye contact with somebody makes a huge difference. It lets them know that you see them, that they are seen. And hey, EV chargers are a great spot to see cars that you might not have seen before that you might be interested in. I've found that people at EV chargers are mostly willing to chat with you. I remember I saw the EV6 for the first time ever at a DC fast charger, and I talked to the guy for a few minutes. It's just a nice way to meet other people and check out their cool cars. So just go into DC fast charging with an open mind, and it's always nice to chat with other people. Now, if you set your car to charge to 80% at a DC fast charger, you hit that, and you're not at your car to unplug, you might start incurring idle fees at some certain stations where you're getting charged every single minute for a certain amount of money until you unplug the car and allow somebody else to charge, which I think is a great thing. There's no reason you should be leaving your car plugged into a DC fast charger while you're out shopping or something. It's just unfair to everybody else that needs to use that charger. So use the Blue Link app on your phone, use whatever charging provider app you have to monitor your car's charging session. You can go into the Hyundai, Kia, or Genesis app and it will tell you your car's current battery level. So just keep that in mind. Idle fees will add up really quickly. If your unlimited Electrify America has already expired, On a road trip, it might also make sense for you to spend a little bit for that monthly pass that will give you a reduced cost per kilowatt hour of energy when you are charging at Electrify America. So you got to do the math there. It depends on how many charging sessions you're going to do, but that could make sense to sign up for that monthly pass, even if it's just for one single month, to get that reduced price per kilowatt hour. The same thing goes for probably other charging providers as well. Now, for those of you who tow, if you go to a DC fast charger that has plenty of stations and there's nobody using them, go ahead. Just pull your car up to the charging station with the trailer attached. Maybe you'll block one more stall, but if there's nobody there, you're only going to be there for 18 minutes. I would say take that chance. But on the other hand, if you show up to a charger that is busy or getting busy, don't be that guy that's blocking an extra charger because you don't want to unhook your trailer. Spend the extra 2 to 5 minutes to unhook your trailer and then properly move your car into the spot to charge. Please don't be that person. Before you head out on your road trip, make sure your tire pressures are all set, because if you have low tire pressures, that's also going to contribute to unnecessary range loss as well as efficiency loss. You want the tires to be inflated to, I think on my Ioniq 5 it's 38 PSI. I don't remember off the top of my head what the other EVs from Hyundai, Kia, or Genesis are, but that is just a very simple way to make sure you're going to get great efficiency on your trip. Another thing, if you have access to home charging, before you head out on your trip, make sure you're charged up to 100%, and also precondition the cabin before you actually unplug and hit the road. So bring the cabin down to a nice comfortable temperature and then unplug and head out on your trip. This will alleviate a lot of energy usage from the HVAC system. The car will stay topped up while it's preconditioning the cabin. So that's a really simple way to extend your range a little bit more, especially if you live somewhere where it's super hot. We're talking like out in the desert where it's 110, 120 degrees. That is going to be a lot of energy to keep that cabin cool. And most of the energy usage there takes place in that initial lowering of the cabin temperature. Maintaining it uses significantly less. So if you can alleviate that usage up front, that's awesome. Another thing to keep in mind is going to be weather. If you have really high headwinds, if you have heavy rain, all this is going to really eat into your range. So you really have to take that into consideration, because if you've been driving your car in great fair weather for the last week and your screen here is telling you you've got 300 miles of estimated range available to you, if you get heavy rain, you get headwinds, that number is going to actually in reality be a lot lower. So you really have to keep in mind and watch your consumption versus what you're normally used to. If you see it drop to 2.7, 2.8 miles per kilowatt hour versus your normal 3.3, 3.4, that's going to take a big hit on your range. Another thing, if you're going on a long road trip, make sure you've got plenty of windshield washer fluid, because likely you're going to be getting a ton of dead bugs piled up on your windshield and you want to be able to try and get those off. So definitely make sure you got plenty of washer fluid. Make sure you got good wipers. If you haven't replaced your cabin air filter in a while, I would say go ahead and replace that. Make sure it's getting good airflow and that you're getting good clean air into the cabin. You don't want to be breathing in a bunch of pollen and all that other crap when you're on a long drive. So there you have it. Those are all my recommendations for road tripping in an EV. I've probably missed a ton of stuff. If you guys have other thoughts on EV road tripping, let me know your suggestions down in the comments section. I love hearing your guys' thoughts. And if there's enough of other good ideas, maybe I'll make a part 2 follow-up to this video in the near future as well. So anyway, guys, if you liked today's video, give it a thumbs up. Consider becoming a channel member if you want early access to all my videos. Memberships start at only $3 per month. Consider checking out my store at ioniqguy.com for accessories for Hyundai, Kia, and Genesis EVs. And as always, I will see you guys in the next one. Take care, everybody.